So, welcome everybody. Day 16 of this book reading, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Chapter 5, The Pain Body. The greater part of most people's thinking is involuntary, automatic, and repetitive. It is no more than a kind of mental static and fulfills no real purpose. Strictly speaking, you don't think, thinking happens to you. The statement, I think, implies violation. It implies that you have a say in the matter, that there is a choice involved on your part. For most people, this is not yet the case. I think is just as false a statement as I digest or I circulate my blood. Digestion happens. Circulation happens. Thinking happens. The voice in the head has a life of its own. Most people are at the mercy of that voice. They are possessed by thought, by the mind. And since the mind is conditioned by the past, you are then forced to reenact the past again and again. The Eastern term for this is karma. When you are identified with that voice, you don't know this, of course. If you knew it, you would no longer be possessed because you are the only true possessed when you mistake the possessing entry for who you are, that is to say, when you become it. For thousands of years, humanity has been increasingly mind possessed, failing to recognize the possessing entity as not self. Through complete identification with the mind, a false sense of self, the ego, came into existence. The density of ego depends on the degree to which you, the consciousness, are identified with your mind, with thinking. Thinking is no more than a tiny aspect of the totality of consciousness, the totality of who you are. The degree of identification with the mind differs from person to person. Some people enjoy periods of freedom from it, however brief, and the peace, joy, and aliveness they experience in those moments make life worth living. There are also the moments when creativity, love, and compassion arise. Others are constantly trapped in the egoic state. They are alienated from themselves as well as from others and the world around them. When you look at them, you may see the tension in their face, perhaps the furrowed brow or the absent or staring expression in their eyes. Most of their attention is absorbed by thinking, and so they don't really see you and they are not really listening to you. They are not present in any situation, their attention being either in the past or future, which of course exists only in them in as thought forms. So they relate to you through some kind of role they played and so are not themselves. Most people are alienated from who they are, and some are alienated to such a degree that the way they behave or interact is recognized as phony by almost everyone, except those who are equally phony, equally alienated from who they are. Alienation means you don't feel at ease in any situation, any place, or with any person, not even with yourself. You're always trying to get home, but never feel at home. Some of the greatest writers of the 20th century, such as Franz Kafka, Albert Camus, T.S. Eliot, and James Joyce, recognized alienation as the universal dilemma of human existence, probably felt it deeply within themselves, and so were able to express it brilliantly in their works. They don't offer a solution. Their contribution is to show us a reflection of the human predicament so that we can see it more clearly. To see one's predicament clearly is a first step toward going beyond it. So, Joe, ego, how is it that, what is giving that rise to that ego? So everybody has this voice which keeps, it's there. It keeps saying something. Sometimes it becomes a chatterbox. Rukta hi nahi hai. So that is the voice of our mind. And we, being the witness, can listen to that voice. But आज से पहले हमने उस वॉइस को एक स्टेटस ये दिया हुआ है या था that this is my voice. Whereas it is a very clear distinction. If two people are having a conversation and if one is speaking, it makes the other who is listening to the other person. So if there is a voice in the head and you are witness and listening to that voice, it's a clear distinction that that is the voice of the mind and this is not your voice. So this mind is yours and you and mind are two separate identities in this physical body. But हमने इतनी देर अपनी कंडीशनिंग और प्रोग्रामिंग में उस वॉइस को वो स्टेटस दिया हुआ था कि ये ही मैं हूं एंड विद दैट मिस एसोसिएशन और मिस with that wrong giving of that status to the mind as you, there develops an egoistic state of the mind. So ये ego भी आपकी नहीं है because say जब ये voice बोल रही है, this voice is also not yours because you are listening to the voice. But due to the identification or that status given to this voice as your voice, the mind develops a state of ego. So ये ego भी आपकी नहीं है, ये mind की है. और जितना हम इस स्टेटस के एसोसिएशन को स्ट्रॉन्ग बना रहे हैं विद आवर थॉट्स दैट दिस इज माय थॉट, दिस इज माय थॉट, I need to listen to the, I need to follow this thought, that is nothing but giving fuel and increasing that level or that phenomena of that egoistic state which is of the mind and not you. So you are different and your mind are different. They're two separate identities, and this egoistic state does not belong to you. It belongs to the mind. And it's a false identity creation जहां पे हमने उस वॉइस को एक स्टेटस या दर्जा दे दिया कि ये तो मैं हूं. And that creates the whole state of ego, and then we become identified with that voice as our own voice and start living that. So that's a programming or a conditioning which has been started since so long until the time, whatever your current age is, you've continuously fueled this process of considering and giving the status to this voice as your own voice. सारी confusion ही वहां है. Because who you truly are is not this mind, is not this body, is not this thought, are not these emotions. They are not yours because they do not belong to you. The thought, the think, they belong to the mind. And the mind is also not you. They're two separate things. And this body is also not you. You have taken this as a uniform or as a dress for certain experiences. The whole association of who you truly are with this mind raises that egoistic state in the mind, and then फिर वो सबको नचाता है. Because that egoistic state is all about importance, all about attachments, all about gathering attention. So फिर वो सारा time आपको उसी चीज में करेगा. And the more you are attached to that self or that egoistic state or that mind, the more it is going to run. The more predominant is going to be the thoughts, the more will be the number of thoughts, the more will be the ego identification with materialistic things so that it can get attention. In reality, you are not your mind, you're not your body, these are not your thoughts, and this voice in your head is not you. And the egoistic state of the mind is due to misidentification of giving the status of who you are to the mind. And this ego belongs to the mind. The birth of emotion. In addition to the movement of thought, although not entirely separate from it, there is another dimension to the ego, emotion. This is not to say that all thinking and all emotions are of ego. They turn into ego only when you identify with them and you take them over completely. That is to say, when they become I. The physical organism, your body has its own intelligence, as does the organism of every other life form. And the intelligence reacts to what your mind is saying, reacts to your thoughts. So emotion is the body's reaction to the mind. The body's intelligence is, of course, an inseparable part of universal intelligence, one of its countless manifestations. It gives temporary cohesion to the atoms and molecules that make up your physical organism. It is the organizing principle behind the working of all the organs of the body. The conversion of oxygen and food into energy, the heartbeat and circulation of the blood, the immune system that protects the body from invaders, the translation of sensory input into nerve impulses that are sent to the brain, decoded there, are reassembled into a coherent inner picture of outer reality. All these, as well as thousands of others simultaneously occurring functions, are coordinated perfectly by that intelligence. You don't run your body, the intelligence does. It also is in charge of the organism's responses to its environment. This is true for any life form. It is the same intelligence that brought the plant into physical form and then manifests as the flower that comes out of the plant. The flower that opens its petals in the morning to receive the rays of the sun and closes them at night time. It is the same intelligence that manifests as Gaia, the complex living being that is planet Earth. This intelligence gives rise to instinctive reactions to the organism to any threat or challenge. It produces in animal that appears to be akin to human emotions, anger, fear, pleasure. These instinctive responses could be considered primordial forms of emotion. In certain situations, human beings experience instinctive responses in the same way that animals do. In the face of danger, when the survival of the organism is threatened, the heart beats faster, the muscles contract, breathing becomes rapid in preparation for fight or flight. Primordial fear. When being cornered, a sudden flare up of the intense energy gives strength to the body that it didn't have before. Primordial anger. These instinctive responses appear akin to emotions, but are not emotions in the true sense of the word. The fundamental difference between an instinctive response and an emotion is this: an instinctive response is the body's direct response to some external situation, and emotion, on the other hand, is the body's response to a thought. So, hamare, there are two basic primordial emotions, states which we have, that is fight or flight. दो इंस्टिंक्टिव रिस्पॉन्सेज हैं जो कि हमें बाय बर्थ we it's there in our programming, so it's coming from past incarnations, it's already there. So आज भी, so बाकी सारे जो इमोशंस बनते हैं ना, वो फेयर, फाइट और फ्लाइट पे चलते हैं. So fight is when you want to face the situation, and flight is when you want to run away from the situation. और ये शुरू से it's always there in our subconscious mind, and everything and anything and everything is from this, either the flight response or the fight response. And accordingly, जो ये जितने भी emotions हमें आते हैं ना, they are all mainly of the body. You get these goosebumps. So they are there in the body. So the emotions are experienced by the body. And उसमें अगर तो वो instinctive response है, that is a way of body's response to some external situation. And your instinctive response is always either fight or flight. या लड़ लो या भाग जाओ, और कुछ नहीं है. But जो other emotions आते हैं, they are, that's the response of the body to the thought of the mind. आप एक कमरा एंटर कर रहे हो, वहां डार्क ही डार्क है, सडनली डर आ जाता है, and once you switch on the light in that dark room, that fear vanishes. But that emotion is a reaction of the body to the thought which is of the mind. Not necessarily all thoughts are of the mind, but yes, predominantly all thoughts are of the mind, and emotion जो है वो हमारी बॉडी का रिस्पॉन्स है. सो दैट्स द कोऑर्डिनेशन दैट इज a naturally rhythmic response of the connection of your mind, आपका मन, और आपका शरीर, your body. So when we make that distinction, I am not my body and I am not this mind, but there is a connection between this body and this mind, which is not me, but is part of my experience of my journey here on planet Earth. और उसमें मेरे एक प्राइमोर्डियल पुराने पास्ट इनकारनेशन से प्रिमिटिव रिस्पॉन्सेज जो बने हुए हैं ऑफ एंशिएंट टाइम, बड़ी देर से, आर ईदर फाइट और फ्लाइट, या लड़ लो या भाग जाओ. Indirectly, an emotion can also be a response to an actual situation nor event, but it will be a response to the event seen through the filter of a mental interpretation, the filter of thought. That is to say, through the mental concepts of good and bad and dislike, me and mine. For example, it is likely you won't feel any emotion when you're told that someone's car has been stolen. But when it is your car, you will probably feel upset. It is amazing how much emotion is a little mental concept like mine can generate. Although the body is very intelligent, it cannot tell the difference between an actual situation and a thought. It reacts to every thought as if it were a reality. It does not know it is just a thought. To the body, a worrisome, fearful thought means I am in danger, and it responds accordingly. Even though you may be lying in a warm and comfortable bed at night, the heart beats faster, muscles contract, breathing becomes rapid. There is a built up of energy, but since the danger is only a mental fiction, the energy has no outlet. Part of it is fed back to the mind and generates even more anxious thought. The rest of the energy turns toxic and interferes with the harmonious functioning of the body. It's very interesting to note that this is also called as a concept called body consciousness. So आपकी body की भी एक consciousness है, in which the entire program of what is inside in this body, which is consists of your nervous system, your glands, various glands, your various organs, उसका जो काम है या जो फंक्शन है वो आप बोल नहीं रहे हो. It's not that when you're taking some food and you're saying stomach please digest, liver you also okay help this guy, gallbladder come on do your job. Don't do that. And and when you're going to sleep, this program does not get switched off, and you don't have to remind your body that बेटा मैं सोने जा रहा हूँ, बट बेटा तू काम करते रही, सांस लेते रही, और जो काम है ना तेरा करते रही. No, it's an automatic response. That's the intelligence of this body. That is the body consciousness at play. But the whole concept is, you have to understand here, is that everything starts from that thought which is of the mind, which produces a reaction called an emotion which is of the body. उस इमोशन से जो बॉडी का रिस्पॉन्स होता है थ्रू द बॉडी कॉन्शियसनेस ऑफ द पेन बॉडी इंटेलिजेंस, देयर इज अ चेंज इन योर एनर्जी फील्ड, दैट इज योर ऑरा. एंड वहां से जब वो ज्यादा थॉट्स आ रहे हैं, हम उनको ज्यादा टेंशन दे रहे हैं, और उन थॉट्स के कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग जो बॉडी इमोशंस कर रही है, यू गेटिंग मोर एंग्शियस, यू गेटिंग मोर फेयरफुल, these create those impacts in your aura, your energy body, which then manifest and enter your physical body. So thought is not that thing that you can take it very lightly, because each and everything that is happening in your reality starts from that thought. और वो थॉट माइंड की है. वो माइंड की थॉट बॉडी में एक इमोशन पैदा करता है, जो भी आप उसको एक्सपीरियंस करते हो, वो इमोशंस आपकी एनर्जी बॉडी में पेनिट्रेट करते हैं, which is your aura, and with the level of more toxicity in your energy body, in your aura, the connection from which there is a connection between your aura and your physical body. So those negative energies or negative elementals, dirty energies, they enter your physical body and then start manifesting as states of dis-ease or disease. So उस थॉट को जो आप एनर्जी दे रहे हो, उसी से सारा चल रहा है. But if it's that thought with which, because for the body it does not know whether it's real or not. बॉडी को तो अपनी इंटेलिजेंस से काम करना है. बॉडी की अपनी एक मेमोरी भी होती है. We'll come later to it. The body has a memory of its own. That's why the instinctive responses are of the body. It's connected with that nervous system wherein you see something, you see a threat or you hear about a threat, immediately the body gets into that attention. That's the body intelligence at play. अब वो रियलिटी में हो रहा है कि आप एक पिक्चर पे स्क्रीन देख रहे हो, नो, द बॉडी विल नॉट नो द डिफरेंस. एंड वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट इज, जो भी माइंड का थॉट आ रहा है, इट इज ओनली कमिंग फ्रॉम व्हेन यू आर ऑपरेटिंग थ्रू एनी ऑफ द फाइव सेंसेस. बिकॉज माइंड को थॉट के इनपुट के लिए वो 5 सेंसेस ही हैं. देयर इज नो अदर सिक्स्थ वे वेयर द माइंड कैन गेट सम थॉट. सो इधर यू सी समथिंग, or you hear something, or you smell something, or you taste something, or you touch something. It's only through the sensory bodies, या your 5 senses, that the mind में वो thought trigger हो रही है. What is more important now is where the meditation comes, because that is a state in which you have your eyes closed, you're not smelling anything, you're not tasting anything, you're not touching anything. Probably what you're listening to is some soothing music, or some person who is doing a guided meditation, or there is just absolute whatever is the nature environment. So out of 5, हमने mind की potency 80% कम कर दिया. It is only the ears. So अगर 20% है, that is where in that state of meditation your experience is that you come out relaxed, because mind के पास process करने के लिए initially issue आता है, because there are too many thoughts, because it's already been downloaded. But once you do a consistent practice of doing meditation every day, that is where that 80% of feeding to that mind gets stopped for that time. And that is the time where there is less thoughts, and that is the time where from whatever you are hearing, you can put good suggestions, or you can listen to good suggestions, because that will then travel to the body, because the thought will travel to the body, and the body will start experiencing those emotions linked to those thoughts जो अब हमने modify करके अच्छी कर दी हैं या refine कर दी है. That is how then the body intelligence works and produces, has those emotions which result in the toxicity in your energy body or in your aura becoming less and less, so that the state of the physical body remains intact and starts to improve. So this is how your, when they say 10 minute 15 minute रोज meditation करनी चाहिए, ध्यान लगाना चाहिए, whatever space you want to be in, the whole concept flows how the thoughts turn into body emotions, then produce a toxicity or a good impact on your energy body or aura, and then slowly gets into your physical body. और अगर आप उसको filter कर सकते हो, then this entire process works for your good. Emotions and the ego. The ego is not only the unobserved mind, the voice in the head, which pretends to be you, but also the unobserved emotion that are the body's reaction to what the voice in the head is saying. We have already seen what kind of thinking the egoic voice engages in most of the time, and the dysfunction inherent in the structure of its thought processes, regardless of content. This dysfunctional thinking is what the body reacts to with negative emotion. The voice in the head tells a story that the body believes in and reacts to. Those reactions are the emotions. The emotions in turn feed energy back to the thoughts that created the emotion in the first place. This is the vicious circle between unexamined thoughts and emotions, giving rise to emotional thinking and emotional story making. The emotional component of ego differs from person to person. In some egos, it is greater than in others. Thoughts that trigger emotional responses in the body may sometimes come so fast that before the mind has time to voice them, the body has already responded with an emotion and the emotion has turned into a reaction. Those thoughts exist at a pre-verbal stage and could be called unspoken, unconscious assumptions. They have their origin in a person's past conditioning, usually from early childhood. People cannot be trusted would be an example of such an unconscious assumption in a person whose primordial relationships, that is to say, with parents or siblings, were not supportive and did not inspire trust. Here are a few more common unconscious assumptions. Nobody respects and appreciates me. I need to fight to survive. There is never enough money. Life always lets you down. I don't deserve abundance. I don't deserve love. Unconscious assumptions create emotions in the body, which in turn generates mind activity and or instant reactions. In this way, they create your personal reality. The voice of the ego continuously disrupts the body's natural state of well being. Almost every human body is under a great deal of strain and stress, not because it is threatened by some external factor, but from within the mind. The body has an ego attached to it, and it cannot but respond to all the dysfunctional thought patterns that make up the ego. Thus, a stream of negative emotion accompanies the stream of incessant and compulsive thinking. What is a negative emotion? An emotion that is toxic to the body and interferes with its balance and harmonious functioning. Fear, anxiety, anger, bearing a grudge, sadness, hatred, or intense dislike, jealousy, envy, all disrupt the energy flow through the body, affect the heart, the immune system, digestion, production of hormones, and so on. Even mainstream medicine, although it knows very little about how the ego operates, yet is beginning to recognize the connection between negative emotional states and physical disease. An emotion that does harm to the body also infects the people you come into contact with, and indirectly through a process of chain reaction, countless others you never meet. There is a generic term for all negative emotions: unhappiness. Do positive emotions then have the opposite effect on the physical body? Do they strengthen the immune system, invigorate and heal the body? They do indeed. But we need to differentiate between positive emotions that are ego generated and deeper emotions that emanate from your natural state of connectedness with being. Positive emotions generated by the ego already contain within themselves their opposite into which they can quickly turn. Here are some examples. What the ego calls love is possessiveness and addictive clinging that can turn into hate within a second. Anticipation about an upcoming event, which is the ego's overvaluation of future, easily turns into its opposite, letdown or disappointment. When the event is over or doesn't fulfill the ego's expectations, praise and recognition make you feel alive and happy. One day, Being criticized or ignored makes you deject and unhappy the next. The pleasure of a wild party turns into bleakness and a hangover the next morning. There is no good without bad, no high without low. Ego generated emotions are denied from the mind's identification with external factors, which, of course, all unstable and liable to change any moment. The deeper emotions are not really emotions at all, but states of being. Emotions exist within the realm of opposites. States of being can be obscured, but they have no opposite. They emanate from within you as the love, joy, and peace that are aspects of your true nature.